It's not a transfer portal commit, but Tennessee did get a commit to the class of 2026 earlier this week. We'll tell you all about Tyron Evans and so much more. Your mailbag edition of the show right now. This is Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Vols. I am your host, Eric Cain. Can't thank you enough for being here, making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch each and every single day. You guys know it. We are free and available wherever you get your show. Everydayers, today's your show. I'm going to answer many of your questions in segments 2 and 3 before hitting a number of different topics here to begin this Tuesday show. Tennessee got a wide receiver commit a Sunday night. Tyran Evans for the class of 2026. Who is he and what does he bring to the table? Joe Milton. Wow, what an NFL debut. I was recording Monday's episode at halftime of that Patriots game, so I didn't want to hit on it, for Monday's show because clearly he had another half to play, but wanted to make mention of Joe Milton's incredible performance there for the Patriots in week 18 of the schedule. Here on today's show, Tennessee basketball remains at number 1. Jazz Lanier is the SEC Player of the Week. Vol baseball was ranked number 5 by Perfect Game, and then of course all of your mailbag questions. So a lot of information, a lot of reaction coming at you here on this Tuesday show. We couldn't do it without our friends over at Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, put in the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, so Tyron Evans, who is he? Well, if you look at the recruiting rankings and all that, he's not very highly rated. He's a 3-star. On3 has him as the a top 100 wide receiver at his position, the top 30 player out of North Carolina, and he is from, of course, William Amos. Let's see here, he's from Charlotte. Yeah, he's from the Charlotte area of North Carolina. 6'3", 180 pounds. And this is a guy that's very early in the cycle. And speaking with Austin Price, Matt Ray, who cover it daily for VolQuest.com, my colleagues, they both are in agreement that, this guy will probably receive a boost in the rankings. These are very, very early on. And so if you're just stargazing and you're just a casual fan and you notice that Tennessee got a commit, but he's not very highly rated, well, stay tuned because these recruiting rankings happen several times throughout the year. But Tennessee does get its second wide receiver in the class. And you look at this 2026 recruiting class now, not bad, right? I mean, we're at January the 7th. Tennessee has 7 commits for the class of 2026. Again, very early on, a long way to go, but that's third nationally, first in the SEC. You got your quarterback, and you've had your quarterback for quite some time, dating back to August, and Faison Brandon, who is one of the best players in the country. On3 industry rankings has him as the number 6 overall prospect, number 2 quarterback, number 1 player out of North Carolina. Tennessee making a habit to go back into North Carolina and getting some of the best of the best. David Sanders last cycle, Faison Brandon here, and of course, one of the newest commits for the 2026 class, that being Tyran Evans, again from the Charlotte area. But you have Faison Brandon, Eric Cain, in-state, Knoxville Catholic High School. On3 industry rankings has him as a top 130 player. On3 specifically has him as the number 60 prospect overall in the cycle. But he's one wide receiver. Carson Snead, another in-state prospect, tight end from the Nashville area, 6'6", 220 pounds. He's been in the boat for quite some time. Interior offensive lineman and Brandon Anderson. You've got interior defensive lineman and Tyson Bacon. You got a linebacker and Braylon Outlaw. And then, of course, Tyran Evans, who we just mentioned being the newest commit of the class. So, long way to go. But, the pillars, the structure of this 2026 recruiting class very much in place. And Tennessee's doing a really, really good job jumping out, ahead of some of these junior days and, of course, some of these spring practice visitors. And all that leads into June officials and July and August commitments, hopefully. So, pretty good stuff there for the University of Tennessee so far. And you look at Tyron Evans specifically, there was an impact analysis where I believe it was Austin Price. Austin Price spoke to his head football coach. Let's see here. Whenever he committed. Yeah, head football coach. And this is just one of the quotes that you can find in the impact analysis over at VolQuest.com. His head football coach, Deshaun Baker, said Tyron stretches the field and high points the football. I think he fits that Tennessee receiver mold, and that's tall, that can stretch the field. I think his best attribute that doesn't get talked about enough is his blocking. He is the best blocking, he is the best blocker we have on the outside, and it's not even close. Said, honestly, I knew he had it in him. I knew that he had some things that he needed to work on, but he took the coaching and kept his head down. He took all the criticism from myself and some other coaches. He worked hard to get it done. He showcases his talents every single day. He runs like a deer, has a long wingspan. It doesn't surprise me that he blew up so quick. He goes against Samari Matthews every day in practice. That's one of the better cornerbacks in the class, mind you. And one-on-one and scout team, best on best. He only wants to go against Samari. I think that he has pushed himself and is driven to be where he is now. And I think that's, really, really important there. Wanting to go against the best of the best. And, of course, Matthews, one of the best one of the best corners, defensive backs in the class. So some good stuff there. You can get the full impact analysis over at VolQuest.com. And Tyran Evans, Tennessee's 7th commit for the class of 2026. All right, and another topic here in segment number 1 where we're hitting on just a number of different things. How about Joe Milton? Hey, how about Joe Milton? Joe Milton taken 6th in the 6th round, in the 6th round of the 2024 NFL Draft. He was, the 3rd quarterback on the roster behind Drake May, who they drafted, I guess that was in the 1st round from Carolina. Veteran backup Jacoby Brissett's on that roster as well, and Joe Milton was quarterback number 3. He was scout team quarterback. I assume, I don't know this for a fact because I don't follow the Patriots, game by game, but I assume that he was that 3rd quarterback that you can dress on Sundays. But he never saw any action outside of preseason until, the final, week of the regular season. Entering the day, New England was in contention for the number 1 overall draft pick. Obviously, it won, so it's not going to get that. The Titans lost again, so the Titans wrap up the number 1 overall draft pick, followed by, I believe, the Browns are in there, and the Jets, I think. Let's see here. Yeah, the Titans, Browns, and Giants, actually. Giants all finished with 3-14 records, but Tennessee gets that tiebreaker, and they're going to be number 1. So, it's always kind of weird whenever you're non-playoff teams towards the end of the season, especially if you're battling for that number 1 overall draft spot. Like, you're not trying to lose the game whatsoever, but you can play backup quarterbacks and get a look at the future, right? And that's kind of what New England did. And, everybody knows what Jacoby Brissett is, right? You got Drake May, and he's been a bit banged up, but, the talk all week long was, hey, Joe Milton's going to play in this game. Drake May did series number 1, went out, and then Joe Milton came in, and boy, did he have a fantastic game. He finished the game 22 of 29, 241 yards, 1 passing touchdown, 1 rushing touchdown. He completed his first 11 passes. He was 11 for 11. His first touchdown, it was a 1-yard run that capped a 13-play, 55-yard drive in the first quarter. His first touchdown pass was to Keyshawn Boutte, former LSU wide receiver, and just a gorgeous throw, rolling out to his right, hitting him a strike over the middle, 48 yards for the touchdown. He had another really impressive pass later in the game, and I believe he was rolling to his left and threw kind of across his body a little bit and took a hit. But nonetheless, Joe Milton looked great. He looked fantastic. The 48-yard touchdown strike was the first career passing touchdown. It's the longest for the Patriots rookie quarterback on his first career touchdown since Drew Bledsoe hit Ben Coates for 54 yards in 1993. It's the longest touchdown pass from a Patriots quarterback overall since 2023 when Mac Brown found Pharaoh Brown against the Jets. He completed his first 11 passes on the day. Let's see here. The last quarterback to complete the first 11 career passing attempts was Gardner Minshew in 2019 with Jacksonville Jaguars against Kansas City Chiefs. It was just a really, really, really solid day. So good for Joe Milton, right? Got a lot of criticism for his time at Tennessee at points in time. Some deserved, a lot of it not. This does not mean to say that Joe Milton's the next big thing in the NFL, but heck, that's awesome. There's already reports out there on a Monday that teams are inquiring. The Patriots, who let go of VFL Gerard Mayo after 1 year, that was a tough deal. Bill Belichick left that roster in shambles, and Robert Kraft, who I have seen this for years, views Mayo in high regard. Kind of surprising, I guess, that he let him go after 1 year, considering where the roster was. But nonetheless, even though there's no head coach for the Patriots right now, you're seeing reports around the National Football League here on a Monday that teams are inquiring about Joe Milton. So that's awesome stuff. Congrats to Joe Milton, and I can't wait to see where his next story unfold and see where it's told for the 2025 season. Maybe it's still there in New England, or maybe it's somewhere else. We'll have to see. Tennessee basketball is ranked number 1 for the 5th straight week. That sets a new program record. The Vols received 21 first-place votes to 10 for Auburn in this week's coaches poll after 20 first-place votes last week. Received 45 first-place votes in the AP after getting 41 last week. So Tennessee basketball ranked number 1 for 4 weeks back in 2008-2019 season. during its 19-game win streak. The 07-08 season spent just 1 week ranked number 1. We talked about that a little bit on yesterday's show, but yeah, it's a program record, and that's awesome, but hey, it doesn't get any easy, right? Tennessee 14-0 goes to number 8 Florida tonight, who is 13-1. Its biggest test to date, no doubt about it. It's going to be 7 o'clock on ESPN2. The Florida lost over the weekend to Kentucky, dropped 3 spots, but still, Gators have one of the better offenses in all of the land. So Tennessee basketball continues to be ranked number 1. Chaz Lanier was SEC co-player of the week. All he did this week against Norfolk State was drop 24 points and 29 points in his SEC debut against the Arkansas Razorbacks. So congratulations to Chaz Lanier, who just continues to be an absolute stud for Tennessee, and obviously they're going to need him tonight and throughout the season. But in these games on the road in the SEC against good competition like Florida, Chaz Lanier's got to step up tonight, the reigning co-SEC player of the week. And then finally here on segment number 1, I do want to hit on Tennessee baseball. We're at that part of the, I guess the offseason, but really it's kind of preseason now where you're going to start seeing, and in college baseball it's just so funny, right? Like it just continues to grow in popularity, and that's awesome. But like there are so many different publications that put out so many different preseason rankings and so many different preseason All-American lists and all that and the other. And the first one came out on Monday afternoon. It was Perfect Game. Tennessee baseball comes in ranked number 5th according to Perfect Game. Reigning national champions, a lot of times you get the nod being number 1, but I don't really buy into all that nonsense. Who cares? Preseason rankings, literally who cares to begin with, right? But Tennessee comes in at number 5. I would probably have them at number 3, to be honest with you. A&M was at number 1. LSU's at number 2. I'm fine with those teams being ahead of Tennessee. Virginia and Georgia ranked 3 and 4 ahead of Tennessee. Even though Georgia's losing Charlie Condon, they're going to be fine, but I don't know if I'd have them preseason ranked number 4 ahead of the reigning national champions. But nonetheless, Tennessee baseball ranked number 5 in the first preseason rankings. This is put out by Perfect Game. So we are 6 weeks away from Tennessee baseball, and I couldn't be more thrilled about it. And I hope you are as well. Hey, when we come back, we'll answer a lot of your mailbag questions. All that and more as we continue on here with this Tuesday edition of Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. Attending the new 12-team college football playoff games is an incredible experience that brings fans together like never before. I remember the excitement of the past playoff games and can't wait to make new memories with the updated format with extra teams involved. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I used Game Time Picks to find tickets for a basketball game a couple weeks ago. Browsing the deals was a breeze. I found great value for all kinds of seats around the venue. The Super Deal in particular stood out as the best value for the event. I love that I could see the seat views before buying on that app that shows you the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkouts. Plus, a one-time ticket delivery and lowest price guarantee gave me complete peace of mind. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, put in the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create that account, put in the redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, guys and gals, thanks so much for joining us here on this Tuesday morning edition of Locked On Vols. Looking forward to having Josh Ward join us tomorrow. Hopefully going to get my colleague Matt Ray of VolQuest.com to join us, if not tomorrow, maybe the next day, to give us a little breakdown of kind of where Tennessee is in recruiting as we officially, truly, not only flip the calendar over from 24 to 25, but flipping the recruiting classes over from 25 to 26, and kind of where Tennessee stands with some junior days coming up later this month. All right, we do it every single week here on a Tuesday. We take your mailbag questions. Every dayers is when you get to ask me some questions, and we'll start with some questions from the YouTube channel. We'll go to Joey first. What's up with the coaches' contracts, and are we upgrading or signing them? All right, so at the end of January, so essentially February 1st, there are 3 assistant coaches whose contracts will expire. That being defensive coordinator Tim Banks, special teams coordinator Mike Eckler, and defensive backs coach Willie Martinez. All these guys, again, they are employed. They have another month on the job, essentially, even if their contracts aren't renewed or they go somewhere else. They're out recruiting. They're out recruiting right now. Tim Banks is out recruiting, Braylon Outlaw, the 2026 linebacker commit. He posted a picture on social media the other day. These guys are out there doing their jobs right now, as they should. Tim Banks has had a contract on his desk for weeks, but he was trying to focus up on the college football playoff run. Tennessee obviously has expressed interest in wanting to retain him. There's a lot of rumors out there. Miami, I don't think Tim Banks is Miami bound. Clemson's a hot rumor right now. We'll see how all this shakes out. And don't forget, too, with the NFL season, the regular season ending, there's going to be a coaching carousel that will affect the college realm. I mean, think about it last year, right? Jerry Mack left to go coach the Jacksonville Jaguars. Brian John Marie, because of Jim Harbaugh going to the NFL, coaching change over there in Michigan, had to redo some assistants. They got, Michigan got Brian John Marie to go back to Ann Arbor. So my point of the matter is, the assistant coaching carousel might take a couple weeks, right? But nonetheless, I mean, Tennessee wants Tim Banks back. So we'll see exactly kind of where that stands as the days progress. Willie Martinez, a lot of fans wanted him gone after last year, but he coaches the cornerbacks, and the cornerbacks were very good this year. So I would assume Tennessee's going to try to retain him. And Mike Eckler, his special teams have been pretty solid for sure over the course of Josh Heupel's tenure. I'm intrigued to see kind of where they go with these contracts and when they'll be finalized and all that and more. One thing about Danny White is he likes to do everything together. So if there are any changes to assistant coaches or whatever, he likes to make one release. They might be done for weeks on end, but he likes to announce them all at one time. But as of right now, those are three coaches. Those contracts are going to expire. We know Tim Banks is, Tennessee's wanting to retain Tim Banks. I would assume Tennessee's going to try to retain Willie Martinez, and we'll see about Mike Eckler. No reason to think that they won't, but those are the three coaches that you were asking about. All the other coaches on staff, I know a lot of fans are frustrated with Kelsey Pope or Glenn Ellerby. They're all under contract, and there's been no talk of change. So, again, we'll see if any of that changes over the course of January, because it certainly could. Let's go to Spencer. Will Cam Carr return next season? No, Cam Carr entered the transfer portal. He suffered an injury, entered the transfer portal, quit the team essentially midway through. This is the ugly side of where college athletics is right now. And I mean, I don't cover Tennessee basketball like I do baseball or like football and certainly baseball. I don't know Cam Carr. He might be the nicest guy in the world. Maybe he didn't mean any harm by it, but essentially quitting your team midway through, that's not a good look, and that's not great. But no, Cam Carr will not return. He is in the transfer portal. He will not be back at Tennessee. Super Nerd Hoyts wants to know, can you give us a baseball update? Can this be a weekly segment moving forward? Yeah, baseball update. I kind of talked about the preseason rankings there in segment number 1. Tennessee chiming in at number 5 according to Perfect Game. Tennessee will be ahead in some other rankings. I'm sure Tennessee will be behind number 5 in some other rankings. There's about 35 different publications that will put out preseason rankings. But overall, that's kind of where Tennessee is right now. We'll see what the other publications say. Players are starting to slowly make their way back to campus. I think official practice, starts somewhere around January the 20th. So yeah, it's going to be slow for the next couple of weeks, but obviously they'll start practicing and scrimmaging and all that and getting set for the season opener, which is going to be on February 14th, Valentine's Day against Hofstra. And certainly in the season, I'll have a weekly update. Maybe not, every single day or every week leading up to the season opener, but once the season starts, we'll have openers or we'll have updates for sure because, hey, Tennessee baseball just won a national championship, so why not? All right, we'll get into a couple more here before we hit a reset. We'll go to Nate. Happy New Year to you and your wife, Eric. Hope your 2025 is even better than 2024, though that could be tough for y'all. Hey, man, I appreciate that. Blessings, and I hope you, Nate, and everybody listening and watching had an outstanding 2024. And if not, I hope 2025 is much, much better. 2024, we were so blessed. 2025, we're going to be even more blessed with the arrival of our baby boy. So we're really, really pumped about that. Question from Nate. How much does the beatdown of Oregon at the hands of Ohio State help Tennessee? In my opinion, it definitely helps a fan feel like the talent disparity between Tennessee and the, quote, top tier of college football is not as desperate as the media wants us to believe. Yeah, we'll see. Sure, it as a Tennessee fan, it made you feel good that Ohio State did that to somebody else, right? I even saw tweets about, well, Tennessee was only down 21-10 at halftime where Oregon was down 31-0, whatever it was. Let's not play that game. Both teams got their tails whipped. That's a losing argument, literally. But yeah, it helps you feel a little bit better. More so than anything, I just think Ohio State's playing out of its mind right now. And you have so much talent on that roster, clearly more talent than Tennessee has. And I said that going into the matchup. I was a fool for picking Tennessee to win, but I said that going into the matchup. I did. I say a fool because obviously how the game turned out, there were reasons to pick Tennessee. Again, we won't get into that. But I just think Ohio State has a lot of talent on that roster. We know about the wide receivers. The offensive line's playing better than it has all year long, despite losing two of its two best players. Will Howard, because he's been kept clean, is again I continue to compare him to 2023 Graham Mertz, like, and I did that episode with Barrett Salee, before the Ohio State game, and I cut up the little clip where he said that he didn't think Will Howard was a difference maker, and I put it on Instagram because that's what good content creators do. And I am still weeks later getting Ohio State fans that are DMing me on Instagram saying a lot of nice things and commenting on that reel. But hey, flame away, right? I mean, that's the beautiful thing about sports. Will Howard is playing out of his mind right now because he's kept up straight and he's throwing the NFL wide receivers. So credit him, credit those guys. I do think that there is a talent level disparity for sure. But you're right, Nate. I mean, Oregon, which there was no alpha dog in college football this year, but if we were going to pick one that was, it would probably be Oregon. They were undefeated. They beat Ohio State. They won the Big Ten. There was no reason not to pick Oregon, and Ohio State made Oregon look horrific. So, sure, it helps a little bit, but overall, it's just I take it as a team that's playing out of its mind right now and a team that's going to win the national championship. That's what I look at it. All right, and if they go on and run the table and win the national championship, how about that path, right? Okay, the last couple weeks of the season, think about this. Ohio State had to play Michigan, rivalry game. Obviously lost that game. They should have won because Michigan's awful. But rivalry game, Tennessee, Oregon, okay? And then you're going to go on and play Texas, and then either the winner of Notre Dame or Penn State. So what a run there it would be for the Buckeyes if they finish it. Another question here from Nate. Do you believe our loss has a negative impact on recruiting and retention? If so, that has now been mitigated. Has that now been mitigated, or dismantling Ohio State gave the number 1 overall seed? No, I don't think it had that much of an impact on recruiting. Retention, probably not. I mean, the guys going in the transfer portal were already going to go in the transfer portal. I don't think that specific game was like the last straw, if you will. Like, Holden States was going in the transfer portal because Miles Kitson was coming back. Squirrel White obviously wanted to go in the transfer portal. I don't think the Ohio State game gave him any pause. Caleb Perry, Jalen Smith, all those guys, they wanted other opportunities. So, Nate, appreciate you as always, man. Thanks so much for listening and joining the show. Last one we'll do in this segment, we'll go to Ross. This was during that Oregon-Ohio State game a couple days ago. He said, this should pretty much put an end to Tennessee couldn't handle the cold nonsense. No, I mean, Tennessee just played bad. Tennessee was just a very, very bad football team on that specific day. Oregon was playing in what was it, 70 degrees in the Rose Bowl that day? It looked like a very, very bad football team. So, yeah, the narrative shouldn't be Tennessee can't play in the cold. The narrative should be Tennessee just got its tail whipped, which is the truth. I mean, just like Oregon got its tail whipped from that game as well. So, Ross, I appreciate it, man. Hey, when we come back, we'll continue on with the mailbag edition of the show right here on Locked On Vols, something we do every single Tuesday on the show for you everydayers. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. We're talking about that big basketball game as well. Talking about the NFL playoffs here, but FanDuel's got options for all sports. And tonight, premier matchup, top 10 matchup, Tennessee on the road at Florida. Tennessee, the number 1 ranked team in all the land. 5th straight week they've been ranked number 1, but underdogs on the road at Florida. 2.5-point underdogs according to the FanDuel, with that total sitting at 148.5. Florida is one of the best offensive teams in the country. Tennessee, one of the best defensive teams in the country. I like the under in this one. That's just me. But, of course, that's Tennessee on the road at Florida tonight, and that total or that line, 2.5 points, favoring the Florida Gators, according to FanDuel Sportsbook. You can visit FanDuelSportsbook.com. Join today to see lines and like that, so much more. Get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make the playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Got a couple of minutes left here on this Tuesday morning show of Locked On Vols. Everydayers, thanks so much for sending in your questions for the mailbag portion of the show. We're going to answer the remaining ones that I have right now. We'll go to Ben. Ben wants to know, our offense has taken a step back the last 2 years, and our play calling seems to be pretty basic. What offensive scheme changes would you like to do to bring our offense back to the elite 2022 levels? Give me the X's and O's. I would like to see some more motion, first and foremost, and that seems simple, but you go back and you look at what, Tennessee still wasn't a highly, a huge motion team, but they motioned a lot more back in 2022 than they had the last couple of years. Motioning a guy like Jalen Hyatt to get him in one-on-one mismatches against a linebacker or a star player. The Kentucky game comes to mind when a linebacker was lined up against Jalen Hyatt. How does that happen? Well, because of motion and the defense didn't communicate. Look at what Georgia did and look at what Ohio State did at points in times to really confuse the Tennessee defense that, mind you, was one of the best defenses in the country all year long. They motioned. They got him in mismatch. They motioned to get a one-on-one matchup with their tight end against Will Brooks or so-and-so against Boo Carter, a true freshman. I would like to see some motion more in this offense for sure. And for me, and this is not necessarily X's and O's, but it's personnel, and we'll see how this team develops in spring. But Velus Jones was such a unique weapon because he was a running back with the speed of a wide receiver. He was a wide receiver, but he was a running back with the speed of a wide receiver. The way they used Velus Jones in 2021 was like a pinball, right? Underneath possession receiver, throw it to him, let him, make some guys miss, bounce off tacklers, go, and of course he had that speed to break away if needed. Jalen Hyatt was an outlier. He was a speed demon. They just threw it over the top, and that was fun and exciting. The last 2 years with Squirrel White, he doesn't really have necessarily either one of those skill sets. Like, Squirrel wasn't slow by any means, but like at points in times, especially, and I've said this before, and you guys might get tired of me hearing this, but at points in times this year when injuries were abundant, like I was for moving Brew down to the slot and using him like a Velus in 2021, letting him, he's your physical wide receiver underneath, possession type guy. I would love to see that type of change up a little bit. Think about the touchdown pass in the Alabama game. They didn't motion to it, but they flipped Chaz Nimrod and Chris Brazzell, and they threw to Chris Brazzell in the slot for that touchdown. That was a good move, right? I would like to see a little bit more of that, but I think motion's more or less like, so you're not just so basic. I don't know. I mean, this is something where you got to self-scout tremendously, right? Tennessee's, they're still taking shots, but they're throwing way more screen passes the last 2 years. They threw a ton of screen passes in 2023. That is for sure. Not getting Nico out of the pocket a little bit more. I thought Nico looked really, really good out of the pocket, not just on scrambles, but on rollouts and on some bootlegs. I'd like to see some of that. But overall, it's Jimmy's and Joe's, but also you've got to be able to, and I say this about the defensive staff a lot, you've got to be able to react and to adjust in game. And I think that's where Tennessee's been lacking a lot the last couple of years on both sides of the football. In big games against Georgia, defensively this year, Florida in 2023, Ohio State this year, you weren't changing up enough. And I think the same can be said. Arkansas comes to mind for sure. I mean, Tennessee wasn't doing anything in the Arkansas game to try to help their young quarterback out. So again, we'll just have to see. But I think that, whenever I see questions like this, and it might be simple, it might be basic, but I just always go to motion. I think motion is something that can certainly help. Jared says, why aren't the people in charge of college football adhering to the academic calendar better? Can't have it all, so priorities should be the kids and the academic calendar. Number 1, stop chasing money. Number 2, start early, mid-August in January 1. 12-game schedule. 1 bye week. What are your thoughts on this? That all sounds great, don't get me wrong, but your number 1 point, stop chasing the money. You and I both know that's never going to happen. It's all about money. They can say that they're still amateurs and that, sure, they have to go to classes. They have to pass class. I recognize all that, but, it's all about the money. It is all about the money. I, for one, am super in favor of 2 bye weeks from a content standpoint, helping run a website, to doing this podcast, to just football season in general. It's the best time of the year for people like me. I love the fact that there are 2 bye weeks and the season is longer. If you're going to start in mid-August and then January 1st, if you're talking about bowl games and all that, I was going to say there's going to have to be more than 1 bye week in there, but if you're trying to get all the national championship and all that stuff done before the new year, I hear you. That all sounds great. It's not going to happen, right? But to your point, they do need to make some changes to the academic calendar for sure. The month of December is an absolute nightmare for coaches. I don't know why coaches want to coach right now in college. I would go to the NFL. They moved the National Signing Day up, which is great. They need to do something with the transfer portal. Teams playing in the playoffs for a national championship are at a severe disadvantage because the portal opens and that's not your priority, nor should it be your priority, right? It's tough, man. It's tough. Hey, Jared, I like a lot of your changes. I don't think a lot of those will happen, though. I know you probably think the same. Go to Robert. Can you play slot wide receiver? Do you have any eligibility left? I have 1 year of eligibility left, but nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. In all seriousness, of the 6 wide receivers we know that'll be here, who can play slot and who are the most likely slot wide receivers? Good question. Braylon Staley obviously is a slot wide receiver. He's one of the 2 returners currently. 3 returners. Okay, Mike Matthews coming back makes it 3 returners along with Brazel. Of the 3 incoming freshmen, of Joakim Dotson, of Travis Smith, and Darius Jackson, Joakim Dotson is a slot wide receiver. And sure, they cross-train a lot, don't get me wrong, but Dotson is a slot. So those would be the 2 slots. I don't know who a third option would be. Ches Nimrod was kind of that second option, in front of Staley, behind Squirrel this year. We'll see if Tennessee brings anybody in, but those are the 2 slots that they would roll out there right now. 2 more. We'll call it quits here. Brian says, am I the only one content with double-digit win seasons? How do the fans forget about this team, the teams we've had just a short time ago? Of course we want to win it all every year. Vol fans roasting coaches, players, deleting memberships, and posting on here is embarrassing. Hey, Brian, I'm with you, man, in a lot of that respect. I hear you. It's important to remember where you were in this time, in January of 2021. I mean, it was an absolute dumpster fire. I think it's important to remember where you were and acknowledge what Josh Heupel's done here and acknowledge that you've had 2 double-digit win seasons in that span since January of 2021. I think it's so important to remember that. And I hear you. I think, my personal opinion, I'm not telling anybody how to fan, but my personal opinion, fans tweeting at coaches, fans tweeting at players, fans tweeting at recruits, fans tweeting at recruit/players' parents, no place for it. It's a bad look. Having said all that, and you said it right here, Brian, I mean, I'm not taking words out of your mouth. You said, of course, we win it every year. Having said all that, you never want to be content. I'm not saying that this coaching staff's content, but you never want to say, okay, well, getting to 10 wins is enough, or getting to the college football playoffs is enough. It's a great accomplishment, and it's continuing to take that upward trajectory. But you always want to be hungry for more. You always want to know that this can't be the apex. This can't be the peak of what your program can be under this leadership. And so, I have no issue with wanting more, demanding more. I get the frustration right now with the way the season ended. Fans want somebody fired. Fans want, activity in the portal, and there's nothing happening in that regard right now. So I understand the angst. But more than anything, you can't just be okay with where you. And I know that's not what you're saying, Brian, but you can't just be okay with where you are. You've always got to want to improve. But you're right, man. I mean, where this program was, I did a show about it. When Tennessee officially punched its ticket to the college football playoffs, like go back 4 years. Think about everything that's happened since then. Last one, we'll go to NBA Vol Boy. Last year, we did some cleaning and rearranging in the defensive backfield, and it massively paid dividends. Does it not feel like we're going to do the same thing at wide receiver, offensive line, and could we end up being better for it? Feels like we're about to find out. We're about to find out how well this staff has been recruiting when they get their style of player or their guys all over the field at the next year or two. Worked on defense pretty well. You're right. It did work on defense, 100%. That evaluation and portal addition to Jamal McCoy is a big reason why. But to your point, Ricky Gibson, Boo Carter, safety was okay. Not great. Safety was okay this year. The defensive backfield was awesome. Does Tennessee have a Jamal McCoy in the room at wide receiver? Does Tennessee have a Jamal McCoy in the room on the offensive line? We hope David Sanders can be that, but as a true freshman starting in the Southeastern Conference, we'll see, man. We will see. But I do think it's kind of funny. You got both ends of the line here. Fans wanted everybody fired, everybody gone from the defensive backfield, and then when that happened, fans were saying, "Oh my gosh, we're losing everybody!" Right? But it was a good thing because it forced them to play Boo Carter. It forced them to play Christian Harrison. It forced them, who's in the portal, I recognize that. It forced them to play Ricky Gibson. Tennessee's going to be forced to play David Sanders. Tennessee's going to be forced to play a William Satterwhite at center, or so on and so forth. So I'm intrigued to see how it pans out. But I'm with you there, man. It's never as bad as it seems. It's never as good as it seems. It's going to be somewhere in the middle. These guys are on scholarship. These guys were retained by the coaching staff for a reason. And I'm excited to see how spring works out. All right, went a couple of minutes overboard. Sorry about that. Appreciate you guys for sending in your questions, your comments every single week here for the Mailbag edition of the show. We are free and available every single day, weekdays, wherever you get your podcasts. Every dayers couldn't do the show without you. We'll come back. We're ready for a strong Wednesday show right here on Locked On Vols. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, everybody.